Another NFL draft in the books. I want to thank you guys so much for the support on the videos and the streams and hanging out with me. It's a ton of work over the past year, but it's all worth it in the end. It's such a fun time of the year. And there were some really, really good picks on day 3 because there was a lot of value on the board of some of these guys falling, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and talk about some of them. Oh, and of course, what do you think about this guy? Is this guy a good pick? There were a lot of great picks that I'm not going to get into in this video. However, I'm talking about every team's draft class to the best of my abilities in a video coming up shortly after this one. Could be as early as tonight, so make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're checking it out, and I'll be talking about every single team's draft class with grading every team, as stupid of an exercise as that is, before we know what any of these guys will end up being. Takes a few years, but instant gratification society, I'm feeding into it. And we'll start with Jaden Hicks, a safety from Washington State. I could not believe this guy was available. He ended up being the 133rd pick off the board, and that just seemed way too far. He ended up being a top 50 player for me. He's a really, really good athlete who works best in the box, but he's athletic enough, he's explosive enough, he's fast enough to play over the top and too high. I have no questions about that at all. He can be a tight end eraser. This guy's a big play waiting to happen who's also controlled and able to do the little things. I think he is a tremendous player. I know the league doesn't really value safeties, but a lot of safeties went ahead of him. I couldn't believe it. I think the Chiefs got another great one. It wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't show some love to another Texas Longhorn. Hook 'em. Ja'Tavion Sanders was the 101st pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The first pick of day 3. I never thought he would get to day 3. He ended up only being a fringe top 50 guy for me. He was an honorable mention on the outside looking in, but I had him as a top 60 player. Yes, you can maybe worry about him. Does he get schemed open, or does he make the plays happen himself? I heard some work ethic things came up. He didn't test very well in the offseason. I don't know. All I know is that when you watch Ja'Tavion Sanders, he looks athletic on the field. He's got great hands. He never drops the ball. I think he's going to be a really solid value pickup here in the 4th round for the Panthers, who desperately need some more playmakers on offense. And how about Tez Walker? Tez Walker lasts to 113 in a really stacked receiver class. He really hurt his value in the offseason, I think, by having a pretty bad week of practice at the Senior Bowl in regards to dropping the football. He also got unlucky when transferring to UNC. The NCAA stupidly would not give him eligibility. You can look into that whole fiasco, but he rightfully earned it, but that limits what he was able to put on tape in 2023. So maybe that hurt his stock a little bit as well. But when you factor in his upside as a player, his size, his speed, his ability to get downfield, this to me was one of the best deep threats in the entire draft. Yes, you can hype up Troy Franklin. Why does Troy Franklin fall? I think Tez Walker is a better player, personally. He goes at number 113, and I'm a really big fan of his. I don't think the drops are really a big problem because he didn't really do it on tape. Just bad week of Senior Bowl practice. It happens. You hate to see it happen, but it happens. I think he's going to be a really good pro. We'll get another Longhorn on the list. It's Christian Jones, right tackle from Texas. Look him, of course. Christian Jones is a really, really solid player, and that's not exactly what I thought when he came to Texas. This was a guy who was not the best, but got a lot of reps under his belt. Became the starter. Really developed as a player. Had a great week of practice at the Senior Bowl. Did really well in the one-on-ones. Put good film out in 2023. And it wasn't exceptional, and that's why he falls to 162. But I think for a guy that has showed that he can continue to get better and better and better, and then dominate in the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, his stock should have been boosted more than this. He ended up being the number 55 overall player in the draft for Daniel Jeremiah. A lot of people really like Christian Jones, so I think this is a great value pick at 162 for Arizona. You have Jonah Williams you brought in. Not really a long-term commitment there. I think it's a 2-year deal, but you can get out after the first year if you wanted to. And he's not tremendous anyway. Christian Jones could end up being the starter within 2 or 3 years. That's a legit possibility. I'll tell you, this might be the last time I have a Broncos player making any of these lists. What is this graphic? I mean, it was shaped so badly, I had to resize it. It looks better, but the formatting is so bizarre. Anyway, Chris Abrams-Drain was one of my favorite players in the draft. I thought he was about a top 100 guy. I didn't do a big board up to 100, but I watched, more than 100 different players. And Chris Abrams-Drain didn't quite make the top 50 for me, but he ended up being a player I liked quite a lot. He's probably only going to be a nickel at the next level, but has played obviously on the outside for Mizzou if you've watched him. He has some really, really fast GPS times. I found him to be twitchy at times as well, but maybe not quite playing up to that speed. But he's a willing tackler. He can be sticky in coverage. I really think Chris Abrams-Draine has starter potential, but it probably just happens to be as a slot corner in the NFL. But this is an impactful player if he is developed correctly. And I won't even move the draft tracker. We have Austin Booker, was the 144th selection here in the draft. And Austin Booker, I thought would end up going a lot higher than this. The big problem for me about, maybe why I think he dropped a little bit is because he just didn't test especially well. And that was kind of one thing that you could, you hang your hat on, is this guy's going to be a really good athlete. But I don't really care about the testing as much because he looks really athletic on tape. He looks twitchy, he looks explosive, he looks bendy. And those are some of the traits you look for some of the best edge rushers in the league. Not that Austin Booker's going to get there, but the Bears moved up to get him. They needed help off the edge. And not only does he have starter potential, again, if developed correctly, he's going to join that rotation of pass rushers. You can never really have enough of them. So I like the Austin Booker pickup by the Bears here. He really could end up being a starter somewhere under his rookie contract, which you can't really say for all day 3 picks. I think Booker has starter potential. And how about Spencer Rattler? I got to take a minute to talk about him. The Saints grabbed him at number 150. And for me, Spencer Rattler was very easy to hate. Obviously, the QB1, Beyond the Lights, Under the Lights, whatever it was called, that reality show, Spencer Rattler was a little shithead. Oh my God, was he easy to hate. Goes to Oklahoma, who of course I hate as a Texas fan, and did not get much easier to like at Oklahoma. And didn't play especially well after getting some Heisman buzz. And he ends up getting benched for Caleb Williams, which who wouldn't, I guess, right? But benched for Caleb Williams, forced to transfer to South Carolina in the end, but then becomes the starter at South Carolina, obviously. He still has an extremely big arm. The arm talent with Spencer Rattler is great, and he was extremely accurate passing downfield in 2023. The arm is really, really good, and is a starter level arm in the NFL. Now, does he eventually live up to that? But he is a plus backup in terms of upside. And I think at 150, that's amazing value when you consider the last quarterback was drafted with the 12th pick. Rattler goes well later, 138 spots later at 150. I think this is a great pickup. If something happens to Derek Carr, he is somebody that could end up being a starter for the Saints as well. Down the line. He needs some development. He needs time, but you don't have to start him right now. Obviously, you have Derek Carr, and you're not going to be starting the 150th pick at quarterback as a rookie anyway, but he's someone that could evolve into being a starter. He actually is good and apparently has matured greatly. So I think this is an A-plus pick for the Saints. How does Malik Washington end up sliding to 184 in this draft? Did not get it. Johnny Wilson's another one. We'll talk about the Eagles. I mean, Pennsylvania is kind of the story for me in this draft. The Steelers and Eagles, I think, grabbed really good players. But we'll talk about all that in a different video coming up. Make sure to subscribe for that. Malik Washington, though, how does he get to 184? There were not 183 players better than Malik Washington in this draft. Yes, it was a stacked receiver class. He plays receiver. He's undersized. He's going to be a slot receiver only in the NFL. I get that. But he is someone that is twitchy and shifty and quick and an explosive playmaker, and was consistently putting up 100-plus yard performances for Virginia, and it wasn't by accident. He was really, really good, and someone that I really liked in this draft class. It wasn't crazy to see him get to day 3 at all. Not wild at all, but to number 184 deep into the 6th round, that was surprising to me, because this is someone that can be an impactful slot receiver in the NFL. Again, we'll have to see what it is. It's receiver depth right now for the Dolphins, which isn't the worst thing to have. But yeah, I think he can end up being a contributor at some point during his rookie contract. Those are my best picks of day 3. Plenty of other good ones to talk about, and I will be doing that at length in my grading every single team in the NFL draft video coming out as early as tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.